In this video, I'm doing more organizational videos on heavy weapons teams. It's going to cover heavy machine guns or HMGs and automatic grenade launchers or AGLs. Now for the heavy machine guns, I'm using the recommended table of organizations and equipment from World War II. I had to request information on this from a military museum because the manuals that I could find online dealing with this organization did not give me a breakdown of duty positions. It just gave me total number of personnel assigned to the crew. Now at that time you had two primary heavy machine guns that were used with the Allied side, the 30 caliber and the 50 caliber or the 12.7 millimeter if you're looking at the Soviet Army. For the US Army, they used essentially the same crew on both weapon systems. First off, with the M1917, which was a water-cooled 30 caliber machine gun. They were issued 2 guns per section. There was 2 sections per heavy 30 caliber platoon, so a total of 4 guns in the platoon. Each gun had assigned to it 1 NCO, 1 gunner who carried the gun, an assistant gunner who carried the tripod and the mount, 4 people that were ammunition handlers or water carriers because it was water cooled, and 1 driver who assisted the ammunition carriers. Each can of ammo weighed 22 pounds apiece approximately and held 250 rounds of ammunition. Now the M250 caliber, there was 1 platoon of 50 calibers in a heavy weapons company in the infantry battalion. Each platoon had 2 squads. Each squad had 1 gun. On each gun you had 1 NCO, the gunner who was responsible for the gun itself, the assistant gunner who handled the tripod and the pintle mount, 4 ammunition bearers, and 1 driver who, when he did not have a vehicle or was with the vehicle, he carried the spare barrels. Each 50 caliber typically has 2 barrels. Each can of ammunition weighed around 35 pounds each and held either 100 or 105 rounds each. Now, each person on the crew did have a personal weapon. It wasn't just the crew serve that they had assigned to their squad. Each person carried either a pistol or a carbine. It depended on what they were carrying. The gunners, because of carrying the machine guns, had a lot more weight that they were handling, so they were issued pistols. Same with the assistant gunner. The ammunition bearers and driver were issued carbines, and it looks like the NCO was supposed to be either or, but early in the war they were issued a .45, a pistol. Now I did look up the organization for the Soviets during that same time period. In their heavy weapons platoon, they had 1 squad of heavy machine guns, which was equipped with 2 to 4 water-cooled machine guns, which would be the M1910 Maxims, or later the air-cooled SG-43s. Each gun had 1 NCO and 4 to 5 troops assigned to it. I could not find a breakdown as to their duty positions. I could not find anything on the crews that are recommended for the DSHK-38 or the newer versions of their 12.7 millimeter machine guns like the Cord. So I would recommend probably go with this World War II era organization for a heavy weapons team for heavy machine guns. Now for automatic grenade launchers, you have two very common types around the world. The US Mark 19 and the Russian AGL 17 or AGL 30. The US Mark 19 is chambered for 40 millimeter. According to the field manual, it requires only a 3-person team, a gunner, an assistant gunner, and an ammunition carrier. The gunner is supposed to carry the Mark 19, which weighs 60-some pounds each. The assistant gunner is supposed to carry the tripod, the cradle, and the T&E, and the ammo bearer carries a case of ammunition. Each can of ammunition for the Mark 19 holds either 32 or 48 rounds each, and those cans weigh 42 or 62 pounds each. So your ammo bearer is probably only going to be able to carry one can. Now with the Russian AGL, the Russian Army recommends a 3-person crew of gunner, assistant gunner, and ammo bearer. Just like with the US Army, the gunner carries the weapon. The assistant gunner carries the tripod, which has a backpack mount that it gets folded onto and strapped in. And the ammo bearer carries the ammunition. Now I found out that in the Donbass region of Ukraine, the rebels there have an organization of only 2 people for their guns, and a gunner and an assistant gunner, and both of them each carry 1 drum of ammunition. Now the drums for the AGS are 29 or 30 rounds each. I was finding 29 listed for the AGS 17 and 30 for the AGS 30. Each drum weighs approximately 31 pounds when it is loaded. My recommendation for a crew on the grenade launchers is that you go with an 8-person crew. 1 NCO in charge of the crew, 2 people, the gunner and assistant gunner that will be in charge of handling the weapon, 1 person who would be responsible for the tripod and the cradle, and 4 people to handle the ammunition. Now next, I'm going to bring this up because you see these a lot in Ukraine and in Syria. It is a AAA machine gun, an automatic anti-aircraft machine gun. It is the ZPU series, which is 14.5 millimeter. The actual produced weapon systems for this are the ZPU-1, which is a single barrel, ZPU-2, which is double barrel, and the ZPU-4, which is a quad barrel. Now the ZPU-1, according to Russian doctrine, has a 4-person crew, which would be one gun commander, 1 gunner, and 2 loaders. The ZPU-2 and the ZPU-4 has 1 gun commander, 1 gunner, and 3 loaders. The ZPU is considered an out-of-date weapon system, but it is still effective against helicopters, light vehicles, and also massed troops. It is legal to use that against personnel in the open. I have talked to a JAG officer once about this, because there was rumors for years that you couldn't fire a .50 caliber or anything larger than that against a person, that it was against international law. And he said that according to international law, you can use anything up to 20 millimeter against individuals. Anything over 20 millimeter had to be against groups or equipment. So the grenade launcher, the justification is there, you're not targeting an individual person, you're targeting a group. Something I've also seen pretty common with the 14.5 millimeter is them removing the KPVs, which is the vehicle mounted version of the 14.5 millimeter, from disabled BTRs and Burnham 2s, and mounting those on pedestal mounts in the back of light trucks. All of these weapon systems, I seriously recommend you have some type of vehicle assigned to carry the weapon. Not necessarily the crew, but the weapon at a minimum. So you're going to want a Gator or a light pickup truck or some type of Jeep or something along those lines. In World War II, with the U.S. military, with their heavy machine gun teams and squads and platoons, they were issued 1.25 ton trucks. So a vehicle roughly around the size of a Humvee. It's just a little bit narrower, a little bit smaller, but would have similar weight capacity. Now for all my engineer brothers in the Patriot and Militia movement, always remember, essayons.